I think Kevin Harvick knows his only shot will beat him getting into turn one on the bottom if he can possibly get there.
Kevin's only shot is to hit Jeff Gordon in the back end, knock him into Kyle Busch, and drive by both of them. Kevin's only shot is to hit Jeff Gordon in the back end, knock him into Kyle Busch, and drive by both of them.
As you heard, Darrell Waltrip was explaining how a third-place car would win a race on a short track in the final laps after a restart. Seemed like a good theory. Then I thought, wait a minute, that's not just a theory, I've actually seen it in action by none other than Darrell Waltrip himself. It's 1987. Darrell Waltrip had left Junior Johnson, where he'd won 43 races, 3 championships, and just finished second in points, to drive for Hendrick Motorsports. Darrell was released at the end of 1986 by breaking the Junior Johnson's cardinal rule of asking him for a raise.
Show me the money!
We gotta run.
So Rick had called me and said, it's not 86. He said, your contract's up with Rick. I want you to come drive for me. I said, are you kidding? And this was when Rick was still pretty new.
Yeah.
They were B&R were doing their motors, and they were still there was just a lot of things that were not quite complete. And I said, Rick, I don't think you're ready for me, buddy. Mm-hmm. I said, but so what's the deal? He said, well, I've got this company, and they want to get in racing, and they want you to be the driver, and I'll pay you $500,000. That was 3 times. I went to drive for Junior in 1981. He paid me $150,000. I was still making $150,000. That's salary. Mm-hmm. So I think, well, I'm going to go talk to Junior about that. And this is when Junior was having things were just, Warner Hodgson had come along, and Neil, and there was just a lot of things going on that Junior wasn't really happy about, but it wasn't a whole lot he could do about it. I'll never forget, I walked in, I had on a pair of little half glass. He's looking at something. I said, Junior, I need to talk to you about something. What do you want, boy? I said, my contracts, we hadn't talked about my contract yet. And I said, but I just Rick Henry called me, and I laid it all out of what Rick had offered me, and he never looks up. Junior, he just keeps looking down. Finally, he looks up at me and he says, let me tell you something, boy. You need to go take that deal. Well, that wasn't what I wanted to hear. I mean, I wanted him to come back with, well, I can do this, I can do that, blah, 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 blah.
Counter.
Yeah, counter.
Yeah.
No way. And that was the end of it. So anyway, I walk out and I go and I said, well, I guess I'm stuck with what I got. I'm gonna make any waves. Junior always told me, I can't pay you a lot, but you'll win a lot. Mm. And that was kind of the balance. A couple of weeks go by and I'm down to the shop, got a new car we're working on, and I come in, I want to get the seat and all adjusted, and the whole team, they all come around the car and they say, I said, what's wrong, boys? They said, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't I tell you what? Why didn't you tell us you were leaving? I said, am I leaving? Because I hadn't made the decision. I hadn't talked to Rick. So they said, Junior came down and said this is your last race, your last year. He won't be driving for us next year.
Now we arrive at the 1987 Martinsville Goody's 500, 23 races into a 29-race season. Geoff Bodine had won the pole. Terry Labonte, the driver who had replaced Darrell Waltrip at Junior Johnson and Associates, started third. Dale Earnhardt started 8th, and he was dominating the season, en route to his 3rd championship, having won 11 of 23 races in every short track race. Let me repeat that. Dale Earnhardt, to this point in the season, had won every short track race. Starting 14th was Darrell Waltrip. Statistically, 1987 was the worst season of his career, in which he competed full-time with only 4 top 5s and 0 wins. Waltrip had won at least 1 race in 11 straight seasons, but it was looking like that streak would end in 1987. The race didn't start very good for Dale Earnhardt, who would go down a lap after pitting for a flat tire. Geoff Bodine led the first 71 laps, but got caught up in a wreck that would take him out of contention for the day.
Bodine. There again, Kyle Petty, Rusty Wallace, Richard Petty going to the outside of Bobby Hillen Jr. in car number 8. Oh, and Hillen gets around. Richard Petty tags him. Bodine, the race leader, involved. Jimmy Means is involved. Bonnett goes across the curbing. Everybody else goes to the high side in a very quick chain reaction problem. We are under caution, needless to say.
Darrell Waltrip takes a lead after the caution. Up until this point, Waltrip had led only 172 laps all season. Waltrip could only hold it for a short time before his old car, the number 11, driven by Terry Labonte, passed him for the lead. Earnhardt, in front of the leaders on the tail end of the lead lap, fought to stay in that position and begin to pull away from the leaders.
Won a race this year, Eli. Terry Labonte, it's hard to believe, but course, they've had injuries. They've had problems. They lost Jeff Hammond, the crew chief. He is now the crew chief for Darrell Waltrip, that tied car, which is running second. And remember, Earnhardt is a lap down, or on the tail end of the lead lap. Here's your leader, the Budweiser Chevrolet of Terry Labonte. Labonte would like to win here. This is a new short track car they built early in the year for Labonte at Wilkesboro. But you know,
Rusty Wallace will bring out another caution when his engine let go in spectacular fashion. Still amazes me, also scares me just a bit, watching cars flying down pit road with no speed limit. The caution would allow Earnhardt to catch back up with the leaders, and he restarted third.
Martinsville very much a horsepower track, Eli. You really have to jump on that throttle coming out of the corner.
Earnhardt quickly moved past Waltrip and set his sights on Terry Labonte.
Quick way around, and Earnhardt will take second spot from Waltrip in the time.
As Earnhardt went to work on Terry Labonte, caution would come out for a blown engine for Dave Marcus. Earnhardt was able to lead at least one lap, his first of the day.
Side by side, and not much bumping or banging at all. You can still see the daylight between the two cars and Labonte. And now they're slowing down going into the corner, and they're going to put out a caution here. That's what Labonte was signaling.
Dale Earnhardt would pit, but Labonte and Waltrip stayed out. After the restart, Darrell Waltrip was able to pass Terry Labonte, sending a message to Junior Johnson, "Who's the jackass now?" This in reference to Waltrip after leaving for Hendrick Motorsports stated, "I'm leaving an old mule for a nice thoroughbred." To which Junior Johnson replied, "I've had a jackass driving for me, and now I'm rid of him."
Down the back straightaway. You dive into the corners here, so the inside groove is very much the desirable way around this racetrack, and that's where Darrell Waltrip has the tide ride in control right now.
A debris caution would re-rack the field, Waltrip in first, Earnhardt third, and Labonte in eighth after a pit stop. This would be followed by the longest green flag run of the day, covering 277 laps and green flag pit stops. After everything shakes out, we have Waltrip in the lead, Earnhardt second, and Labonte third, the only cars on the lead lap.
This is the battle ongoing for the lead. 3 is Earnhardt, 17 is Waltrip. Barely any room between those two cars.
Dale Earnhardt doing it the hard way, coming on the outside. Now it's a drag race down the front stretch. Lap traffic in front of them, heavy traffic as they move in on the Sterling Marlin car.
See Earnhardt working that steering wheel a bit more than Darrell Waltrip is. When I guess when you're into the outside groove like that, you have to keep that car bearing down, bearing in, tighten it up a bit more.
Earnhardt pumping the horsepower. He jumps in the throttle and he will pull Darrell Waltrip a half a car length. That Lou LaRosa engine really roars to life. And Earnhardt takes the lead.
So Dale leads.
He thinks maybe he just didn't get quite enough gas in the car. It was a quick pit stop. They're so good, they're almost too good for their own good. They get the car in and out and don't get a lot of fuel in the car. So Barney Boyd has talked with Richard Childress, the car owner, and they may have to bring Earnhardt in.
The concern for the leaders in the closing stages of the race was fuel. Waltrip and Earnhardt would do a gas and go. Labonte, who was last to stop on the previous green flag stops, stayed out, but was so far behind could only move up to second behind Earnhardt after the pit stops.
Here's a tall fella, bearded gas man for the Wrangler team. He sloshed in just enough probably to get a buster like you, Eli.
Dale Earnhardt, Terry Labonte. Darrell Waltrip is the third man in the equation here this afternoon, as they are working our way down to the final moments. If you're just tuning in, we have had 7 caution flags so far. We have been caution-free.
Earnhardt maintained a comfortable lead when the caution came out with 6 laps to go. Even with only a few laps remaining, the leaders pitted for 4 tires.
Here comes Earnhardt down pit road.
When one comes in now among the leaders, you would think everybody would need to come in. Right side change for the Wrangler crew.
There's Terry Labonte, Pete Wright, Mike Hill, Sandy Jones, and the crew there changing right side tires there. It's a race.
There goes Schrader exiting pit road.
And it'll be a 4-tire change. We're going to have 4 fresh tires, tanks of fuel, and a few laps to go. There's Mike Powell, Jeff Hammond, Eddie Dickerson, Eddie Jones, and the Tide crew there working. Earnhardt, good pit work. His car is down and away. And just behind him will be Terry Labonte.
With Earnhardt coming out first, Labonte second, and Darrell Waltrip third.
Well, it'll be the 3-lap-to-go signal as Harold Kinder puts them back to green after the spin involving Kenny Schrader and Bobby Allison. Both cars have returned, and we have 3 laps to go with the green from Harold. Dale Earnhardt, car 3. The 11, Terry Labonte. The 17, Darrell Waltrip. Those are the only 3 cars on the lead lap.
Here we go for the restart with 3 laps to go. Let's review what's at stake. Dale Earnhardt's short track streak. He was 6 for 6 on short tracks in 1987. Terry Labonte had not won. More importantly, Junior Johnson had not won all year. Darrell Waltrip trailed Dale Earnhardt, who was en route to win his 3rd championship, equaling his own record. Darrell also trailed Terry Labonte in his former car. Waltrip, also winless for the year, looked to continue a streak of at least 1 race win for the 12th straight season. So never mind winning a cup race, which carries its own prestige, each driver had significant motivation to win this race.
Trying to get around, they ride high, and Terry just nudges the wall.
Now they go down the back straightaway. There's nobody sitting here in Martinsville. Oh, the 3 cars touch. They get together. Labonte spins. Waltrip stays low. Darrell Waltrip is going to win here at Martinsville. Waltrip takes the checkered flag.
Never, ever try to pass Earnhardt on the outside. Looks like he squeezed Labonte up in the wall.
He is there. He's just behind Earnhardt, but the inside groove is open. Here comes Darrell Waltrip up the
And
inside.
here we go.
Let's see if there's
Bump.
contact. Labonte's car spins. He taps Earnhardt, gets
Dump.
Earnhardt out of shape. Labonte goes on around, and hanging on that bottom groove is Darrell Waltrip. He will move on.
Labonte spins. Waltrip stays low. Darrell Waltrip is going to win here at Martinsville.
And win
Waltrip
for
takes the
Darrell
checkered
Waltrip.
flag. Earnhardt will finish 2nd. Labonte and Bobby Allison get together. They will finish, at least Labonte will in this case, finish 3rd if he can get the car going again. Remarkable. After Labonte tried to make an outside pass on Earnhardt coming off turn number 3, we watch it again, rather off turn number 2. Here's where Labonte tries to go to the outside, and they run out of racetrack.
Labonte taps the wall. He is there. He's just behind Earnhardt, but the inside groove is open. Here comes Darrell Waltrip up the inside. Let's see if there's contact. Labonte's car spins. He taps Earnhardt, gets Earnhardt out of shape. Labonte goes on around, and hanging on that bottom groove is Darrell Waltrip. He will move on to victory lane. Let's see what happens with Terry Labonte. His car down in the middle of the racetrack. Here comes traffic. There's Sterling Marlin goes around Richard Petty. Alan Kulwicki and Bobby Allison trying to miss him. His car spins. Ooh! Allison taps Labonte.
Did it look to you like Waltrip hit Labonte, who then went into Earnhardt? It was tough to tell.
Really difficult to tell from our angle, but those 3 cars coming together.
Was that intentional? I doubt it. Looked like typical Martinsville racing. Waltrip was there on the inside. Labonte came down, making contact. That sent Labonte into Earnhardt, moving them both out of the way for Darrell Waltrip to take the win. I don't think anyone could have orchestrated that so perfectly. Not even Waltrip. He was very good, one of the best. It's just interesting to hear him speak years later about bumping the 2nd place driver into the 1st, and that's how you get the lead. Now, the crowd seemed to be okay with the move. I didn't hear any overwhelming boos. You have to remember, the narrative of 1987 was Dale Earnhardt was too aggressive. They even ran a piece earlier in the season about how aggressive Earnhardt had been racing for the past few years. So it may have been Dale Earnhardt got what he deserved.
You know, there are selected people that you see going to battle like this. You see if they would be in a group with this. That goes Rudd to the low side. There's Petty on the high side. Schrader's going to hope that Petty can turn back Rudd, and maybe he'll gain an advantage. But these are 4 people that are just good racers, and they're fun racers, and this is likely to be a very clean battle.
Now, I may be reading too much into this, but considering what I know now and all the commentary about the 87 season and how frustrated people were with Earnhardt, that sounds like a watch these guys drive clean, unlike that Dale Earnhardt, who all he does is run over everybody.
This is just outstanding racing now. Petty goes back down. We're going to restart the helmet dash. It's Petty on the pole. Geoff Bodine on the outside pole. In 3rd, Ricky Redden, the fastest qualifier. Ken Schrader. And Schrader gets inside.
What the? You mean drivers still wreck, even when Dale Earnhardt's not around?
Geoff Bodine, a rough afternoon for you, partner. What just happened out there?
I don't really know. My tire was a little loose, so we were running high. seemed like we were holding everybody off. They couldn't get under me. I guess the tactics now, after you can't pass, you just knock the guy out. I don't know who it was that hit me, but I'm sure he should know better than do that. That's an Earnhardt move.
What the? Earnhardt was nowhere near that wreck. That's what you call living rent-free in somebody's head. Now, there's plenty of wrecks you can blame on Dale Earnhardt, and you're about to see a whole video full of wrecks caused by Dale Earnhardt. But the fact that his first thought is, hey, that was an Earnhardt move, when Earnhardt had absolutely nothing to do with it, shows you the impact he had on this sport. In 1987, he was driving everybody crazy.
There's only one Earnhardt out here. We don't need any more, but...
I mean, Earnhardt's driving is so bad that it's somehow affecting all the other drivers, and now they're driving bad, stupidly, aggressively, Earnhardt-like.
Story in Winston Cup stock car racing in 1987 has been, as you know, all the crashes, the accusations, and the crashing, and we want to bring you an update on what's going on with that situation. To those of us intimately involved in the sport, touting the titillation of crashes and controversy is sacrilegious, but journalistically, it's a story that continues, and here is both a recap and an update.
Good grief, there are about 5 words in that sentence I need a dictionary for.
The roots of everyone's displeasure date back more than a year ago, and at Bristol 2 months ago, the latest round of major blows began. Dale Earnhardt tagged then-leader Sterling Marlin. Geoff Bodine and Ken Schrader are swept up. 2 weeks ago, Charlotte, temper sore to a full boil. The Winston. Neil Bonnett said it was time to take the gloves off, and Dale and Geoff are first, again and again, taking out others. Later that afternoon, Geoff is again the victim, and this incident draws in normally racing aggressive, aloof Bill Elliott. The seeds of still another incident are sown. After the race, Dale Earnhardt states his case.
Elliott turned me sideways off of 2 over there, and I got straightened out from that, and then he turned me through the trial sideways. So I got sort of ill about it, but, you know, I still raced him, and I carried him up high down there and let him know I tried to run him in the wall and knock him or nothing. I just carried him a little high. He got a little ill about it, tried to wreck me, or waited on me after the call shot for checkered flag.
A usually placid Elliott demonstrates his feelings of oneness with the Childress crew as he returns after losing the Winston. Back in the pits, more emotion. And the rebuttal of very specific Bill Elliott.
The thing of it is, I mean, here we are playing bumper cars 170 miles an hour, and I've probably been the least aggressive guy in here as far as what I know my race car will do. You know, and I knew I was there, and he knew I was there, and he just flat cut me out, and then he nearly put me in the wall down there. I didn't have to run over him to outrun him. You know, he was just cutting me out. It's time this stuff stops. I mean, we've got $75,000 in race cars, plus our lives involved too, plus everybody else is out there trying to race for a living, you know, and it's crazy.
NASCAR issues fines and a warning to all involved. Dale Earnhardt has a politician's response, but at the same time acknowledges NASCAR's feelings.
NASCAR is going to handle it the best they can and do the best for the sport.
Then finally, in a sportsman race at Charlotte, an incident that most of his fellow competitors don't say is blatant. Geoff taps the rear of another.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and anyone that has really reviewed the tapes of that incident, so-called incident, that wasn't even an incident. We call it a non-incident. There's a little tap from behind. The car got a little sideways. They both straightened out and continued. Nothing was deliberate. Nothing was done intentionally. It was just a racing accident. Everyone in auto racing, unless they're a Dale Earnhardt fan, it's unjust. The penalty was just unjust, uncalled for. There wasn't really an accident. The sad part about this is I've almost become a hero because I ran into Dale Earnhardt. I don't want to become a hero because I ran into Dale Earnhardt. I didn't run into him on purpose. I want people out there to believe me. So I'm really no hero to him. There's a lot of people out there that don't like Dale, a lot of people that don't like other drivers. It seems like they've all joined on my side because I ran into Dale Earnhardt.
What's interesting is he talks about he gained a lot of fans because he ran into Dale Earnhardt. Now, I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. Whenever a current day driver comes close to the line, crosses the line in aggression, there seems to be an immediate comparison to Dale Earnhardt to justify the aggression with the fans. I never understood this because there were many times, especially in the mid-'80s, where the fans did not like the way Earnhardt drove and voiced their displeasure, in the same way fans do today. Many seem to forget when making the comparison, it comes off as, well, everybody loved it when Earnhardt did it, so why don't we love it when insert driver does it now? Everybody did not love it when Earnhardt was doing it. It was mixed, just like today, just like it always will be. After the race, Earnhardt and Labonte went to the NASCAR hauler to voice their displeasure. Current-day fans may be confused by this because the current driver etiquette is whatever happens on the last lap is fair game. Whatever happens when going for the win is fair game. If you have to wreck somebody, so be it. NASCAR allows that type of behavior. However, there was a time when they did not. Just ask Ricky Rudd, who had a win taken away as he was black flagged on the final lap while in the lead after having made contact with Davey Allison on the previous lap. There was a chance NASCAR would pull the win from Waltrip, but as I said earlier, it looked like one of those racing deals, so the win stands.
That Darrell Waltrip will keep a tape for Jessica of this finish and show her what that rose meant to him when she's a little older.
There are Labonte and Earnhardt just coming out of the NASCAR trailer. Tim Brewer, Labonte's crew chief.
Does that mean all's fair in love and war from here on out? The race is over.
Dale, can you tell me anything about what happened on the last lap?
NASCAR wants to look at the tapes. In other words, Darrell won the race.
Terry, you got any comment at all? No comment.
Good race, guys.
That was Richard Petty who chimed in there. Good race, guys, or at least it sounded like him. Not much to say there. Pat Patterson, what do you think? What are they talking about?
Well, the story, gentlemen, is neither one of these two drivers will say anything about what happened on the last lap. They came out of the NASCAR truck, and apparently until NASCAR reviews the tapes, nothing will be solved here at Martinsville. However, both drivers heatedly upset, both not making comments. Gentlemen?
Well, interesting. And maybe in a situation like this, you see Tom Chambers of Goodies, Darrell Waltrip, some of the race queens here. Bill France Jr., the president of NASCAR, is with Pat Patterson. Pat?
Mr. France, I guess nothing can be decided or said at this time about the last lap incident. Is that the way it stands right now?
That's the way it stands right now. We're going to get one of your tapes and see what that shows. From what we saw up there, as far as the 17 is concerned, he looked like he was in pretty good shape. From a distance, and we'll take another look at another one of the angles. But right now, we're just sitting tight until we can take a look at some more tapes.
That will do it for this In the Spotlight, Darrell Waltrip, Bump, Dump, and Win. Thank you for watching.